hey guys.
Hey.
I am over here trying to get set up.
Hey y'all.
You all right over there, Teresa?
Did you hear all that noise?
No, ma'am, I didn't.
Oh. Because as soon as I logged in, everybody called my name. And I'm like, what?
It's like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm trying to make sure we have all of us here. So I appreciate you guys stepping up to do this, to give the ladies some info and some of the guys and stuff, depending on who's showing up. I don't know which groups, because I kind of opened this up to a few people. So I appreciate you guys for doing this. So we have about a minute before we get started. It's been crazy over here.
Where are you at today?
I'm in, where am I right now? I left Panama City Beach, drove to another developers meeting in another city, and Pensacola. And then tomorrow I have to go to Mobile to meet with one of the bankers, presidents of one of the banks there.
Yeah, so you're a little road warrior right now.
Yeah. And that's why Cayenne, if you guys see her on Facebook, and she's like, so are you coming home for Christmas or something? And I'm like, well, why? Why do I need to do that right now? There's nothing under the tree for you guys. I don't have any little ones. There's no Santa. I don't know what you want. So, but yeah, it's it's crazy because Florida, they don't have many restrictions, if any, going on, and then other places do. And but I'm just accustomed to masking up. So I just keep my mask, on or whatever it is. So, well, we are at 2:00. And so as you already know, we're going to go ahead and get started, guys, because I like to start on time and not waste anyone's time, especially when they are volunteering their time to share information. And that's what we're doing today. I think it's really important for folks who may not know what we kind of do here. This is our Sunday school series for folks who are just joining us for the first time. And we created the Sunday school series as a way to provide information for free, where you guys can come in on your Sunday, go, come back, play it back, get caught up, and just hear different people coming in to talk about different things. So there's no rhyme or reason to anything that's there. There are no scripts in Sunday school or any of that kind of stuff. So normally the guests that I bring on are coming from their own space and their truths. And when they come to share, that's exactly what they do. So I always tell folks and put that little warning out there. You might hear some cussing on a Sunday. You may hear some praise and worship on a Sunday. I don't tell folks what to say, how to say it, or any of those kind of things. Whatever it is that's moving them, do it. And then if you guys in the audience have questions, post your questions, because that's how we learn. We learn from each other within Win and Be Niched, or whichever way you're connecting with us. And so if that does not happen, if we're not sharing and answering questions, then people are never ever going to know some of this information. And so today, the reason why I thought that this was a good piece to put on this calendar right now when we're doing it is because as people are looking at what they're going to do for 2021, folks are going through coaching and people are coming out of coming up with their plans and what they're going to do for next year and all these other things. And I said, you know what? Sometimes people are reaching for this amount, or as I always say, they're reaching for the stars and there's a whole galaxy in front of them, but they don't know that it's there. They don't know, what to do, how to reach it. And then when they do, for some people who reach it, they don't really know what to expect when they get there. And so I just said, let me bring on a few people that, number one, I knew that they had made $1 million, was about to make $1 million or whatever, and I could verify this information. So I'm not bringing people today who are talking about, oh, I made $1 million and I couldn't verify it. These two ladies that I'm bringing to you guys today, we've made the $1 million together or some kind of way I've worked with them to see this $1 million be made. And what's important about this, guys, is because these are people who you are passed right on the street. These are people who will sit next to you. These are people who will talk to you. And sometimes when I ask you guys things like, what would you ask a millionaire? I'm like, oh, if I ever met one. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, you guys are in the presence of millionaires all the time. And you walk right by them because I don't know what you expect them to look like or how you expect them to handle themselves or whatever it is. So I wanted to definitely do that. So before I go off and asking questions that I think some of you might have or letting you guys put them in, I want Teresa and Toya to kind of just tell you a little bit about who they are and maybe how they, are acquiring their resources or what they did, whichever way they feel comfortable in doing it, because I know some of you will ask questions that'll get into the nitty gritty of, some of the questions you have. Because for me, guys, it's always been my hardest struggle was dealing with family and friends that were closest to me when you start changing your lifestyle and adding more income to that. So Teresa, you want to get started?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and get started. So, hey everyone, I'm Teresa Rhodes, and I started off as a broker, and I still own my own brokerage. But the way that I got into almost making my first $1 million in business was after going through Tamika's coaching program. I told her during my coaching program with Tamika, I was telling her about a unique niche that I had, basically marrying my college degree of being an environmental engineer with real estate. And I was able to write a proposal and get major corporate contracts that ended up mid-year getting me about $500,000 for the year. And that increased significantly year over year, only because I'm in a unique space. So Tamika was able to teach me, just different ways to look at things and to get out of my comfort zone. And so I don't have the numbers for the rest of this year yet, just calculated because we did get another corporate client, but I definitely am, closer to that $1 million mark, if not over it. And it's all because I was open to new opportunities. And what Tamika talks about all the time is making sure you create your own lane, have your own niche and stick to it, and making sure that and you service that area. So that's a little bit about me. It wasn't anything hard because sometimes we overthink the process and think that, becoming a millionaire is, taboo or it can't be me because I don't know anybody. But like Tamika said, you're amongst, several, and we may not look like, the average famous person who, has millions because we live our lifestyle according to our own terms. But you never know who's walking around here not looking like $1 million, but are $1 million. So.
Right. And I think that's an awesome way to lead into the lady that I know walks around looking like $1 million for hers, which is Miss Morale. Because y'all see me and I might be in flip-flops, but then tomorrow I might be in a full mink or whatever. You just don't know how you're going to get me. Sometimes I have my hair done, sometimes I don't. So that's why I always think this is funny. The part of where people think they know what to recognize or look for. And we've got to move out of that space because it really is whatever that person's style is. You know what I mean? So, hey, Toya, want to introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Toya Morell, and I started off in real estate as a broker salesperson with the real estate house back in 2005. And my success comes from a lot of coaching that I got. It wasn't necessarily with her as a coach, but her as the broker owner of the real estate house. And so she urged us as realtors to become investors. So that's where I got my money from, is being an investor. And it wasn't anything different that you had to do. It was your regular routine, looking for listings, identifying properties. I originally started off in new construction, switched over to working with investors as well. And the regular work that I did for them on a day-to-day basis, I'm coming across the deals. Why not invest for yourself? And like Tamika said, I spent a lot on fashion. I love fashion. That's like a first love. But hey, reinvest this, invest this, and you make the money for you so you can, be the par. I didn't even realize until an accountant showed me, oh yeah, you reached the mark. You are. So I didn't even know that I was in the Millionaires Club, which is funny because some, just in saying that we don't know what they look like, I didn't even recognize that I had accomplished it. And it had just become so fun and just totally engrossing, just doing the work. I like being a realtor as well, but just doing it for yourself on the day-to-day is just second nature almost. So it didn't even seem like work. And thus I didn't realize, wow, I really, I had done so much in numbers. The other thing that contributed to my financial success is multiple streams of income, which we were also encouraged to do as realtors. That was some of the coaching that we got. We had meetings on Tuesdays weekly, and we were encouraged to, one, do multiple streams of income. But again, it wasn't necessarily taking more of your time because Tamika was telling us how to basically earn from what we're already doing. So I just from the neighborhood preservation side, becoming an investor, I'm seeing the overgrown properties with the overgrown lawns and, just writing up to the city, hey, this is going to impact my sale on the back end if this property isn't brought up to par. And so talking to neighborhood preservation, ended up with a mowing contract, set up a mowing company, certified it as a minority, and got a mowing contract. So that's another stream of income that basically runs itself. But had it not been for Tamika saying, talking about the certifications as a minority, as a women business owned, as a small local business enterprise, I would not have known that. If I had not seen her at tables where we had not been before representing us at certain business levels, I don't know that I would have been as eager to go through those doors. I'm not going to say that it never would have happened, but I don't think that I would have readily gone through like I did. So with that added stream of income, as well as just knowing, hey, I can pick up a contract here and a contract there to increase the income. And the hardest work is just the foundation, the paperwork part. After that, for the most part, once you get your contractors or workers in place to fulfill on those terms, it's a well-oiled machine. It's just the streamlined process for additional income. So that's my story in a nutshell. Work a little, lay the foundation and let it come, and it'll come.
Yeah, and I think that's key, guys, that for the people who are listening, the key things that the two of them, if you haven't picked up on, is they already had a particular thing that they were good at. And so just moving into more of that space. So right now where Toya came in and she was like, oh, I can help people buy a house and flip a house. Then it became, you know what? I need to do that for myself. I like this part, and I like this part enough that I can do it for myself and a few other investors. And which ultimately led Toya to not even necessarily need to be a real estate agent anymore. It's like, well, why do I need to be a real estate agent? I can team up with a real estate agent and let them deal with all those continuing ed and all of that kind of stuff. And I can stay in this lane over here as an investor and really go for it. And I think what was key for watching her grow into that space was that she didn't stop at, well, I'm only going to be able to find properties in Kansas City, so that's where I'm going to stop. No, she took it and said, I'm going to go all over the country. One day I get a call from her. She in Miami on some yacht talking about, hey, Tamika, I'm down in Miami. I want to get this property. I'm like, what? I thought you were in Colorado. And she's like, yeah, I was there 2 days ago. I was in Vail. And I'm like, they living it up. Like they out investing and stuff like that. And that's, guys, that's one of the keys to you guys finding your niche, because then your niche can go anywhere. It doesn't have to keep you in a city in which you may have your office or whatever, if that's what you want to do. So where folks are looking at, well, how do I travel and how do I do all of these things? When you get to certain levels, guys, and your business is going up for the new people coming in, these all become tax write-offs. This travel, all of these things. And so you're living a different lifestyle and enjoying the work differently. And I think that is some of the things that I know, like my kids, my son is like, I don't want to do a 9 to 5 for anybody, because that means I can't go to teach at the beach when I feel like it, or I can't go, here or travel or do whatever I want. So guys, keep those particular things in the back of your head, that not everything you have to do means you have to have yourself spread so thin. A lot of what you have, you can create $1 million companies with just doing one thing really, really well. So you don't have to do eyelashes this week, sell real estate, try to fit that in there. Then you're selling teas, and then you're selling the waist trainers. You're going to burn yourself out, because that's creating 4 different jobs for you, not for true, different streams of income. It's within what you're already doing. So, well, any of you, were you going to say something, Teresa?
Yeah, I wanted to add on to what you just said, Tamika, in regards to your just people having a niche. One thing that I've learned through this process is that your niche will make room for you, in the sense of it'll grow as big as you want it to grow. I kind of boxed myself in when I first started doing what I was doing. But then once I took myself out of that box and, started telling more people about what I'm doing, they're like, yo, that's dope. You're like one of the only people in the US that's doing that. And so it allowed other people to see what I'm doing and then start their wheels spinning on how they can get me more contracts. So one is, know your stuff when it comes to your niche, and don't be afraid to talk about it, because you'll land in places that you never knew that you can land. And as Tamika said about traveling, that's one of the reasons why I even got my international property specialist certification, because it allowed me to travel to see clients in other countries that they're paying for me to travel. So pre-COVID, I was traveling every other week to help a client out at their expense. And it was going to places I wanted to go to. So it's one of those things that it definitely, opens up your ability to move how you want to and when you want to. So.
Yeah, I think that's huge, guys. And when you said that, I was at a meeting the other day with one of my developers, and the one, Teresa, who I'm always calling on you as the engineer to deal with them, because I'm like, they are talking engineer talk, and I don't want to talk this talk. I'm like, I want to do something else. I'm going crazy. And so I said to them, I said, well, it's Christmas time. They're like, it's Christmas next. I'm like, yeah, next week or whatever. And they're like, well, we're not here next week. Next Christmas. I'm like, what are you talking about? We have a large project where we all have to be in Barbados next Christmas. And I'm like, because every time they talk, they're like, yeah, we. And I'm like, all right, let me see who on my squad I'm going to get, because we got to go to the Barbados. We have, we have a contract that we got to work on. And again, these are folks talking about what they have to do next year, and they're getting all their things lined up. And so for me, I don't have to know everything that they know. I just need to bring what I'm good at to that team. And so many times people want to, do everything, and you don't have to do everything. You just need to master your one thing. What is your skill set that you bring to the table? Bring it to the table, and then people will come looking for you. And that was the one thing is I didn't know Teresa when we started coaching, when we were working together. I knew of her, but not knowing her. And when I got into her business, I have to do that to start the coaching. And I'm going, she's got all of this right here, and she just has to tap it. Like Teresa, it's right here. She's like, oh, I just didn't see it the way you're seeing it. So sometimes, guys, your skills and your talents most of the time they're already in you. You just have to figure out how to tie them into something that then allows you to still be who you are, which is why I always laugh at Toya. I'm like, Toya's always going to be who she is. She's always going to come, she says, let's go and grab something to eat. I come up with a sweatsuit on or some jeans. Here she come, red bottoms, leather, capri pants. And I'm like, I thought we were just going to get a snack. Like, here she come, all, all together, everything. I'm like, oh God, here come Lola Falana. But that is who she is. And that's who, people are attracted to. So you can do all of these things and still be who you are. And I think that's what makes, getting into this space at your own terms very important. Not on somebody else's terms, but on your own terms. And when you guys are going through that piece, and I don't know if the ladies have started experiencing a lot of this, but the people around you, your circle starts to change. What does it feel like? Because Teresa, for example, you're adding on $1 million to your business in 1 year. Okay. I don't know if people kind of quite got that. An extra $1 million into her business in 1 year. That's what she's calculating right now. We knew where it was halfway during the year, $500,000. We're talking about adding on $1 million. I know Toya, when we have conversations and, she's looking and she's like, the accountant said I had this much money. How, where, what did I do with it? How did I spend it? And I'm like, who are these people around you? What are you guys seeing from your circle? Has it changed? Because when you add that kind of wealth in short periods of time, and I don't know, I know what it looked like for me, but as some of the people who are here, can you explain or tell them some of the things that may or may not have happened, that has changed things? I know it changed for me. I don't know about everybody else.
It most definitely changed for me because the way I moved in different circles changed, because your mindset changes. It's just something that comes with the territory, and you're not willing to spend your time, energy, or money on things that are no longer, serving into your purpose, whatever your purpose may be. And for me, I lost a few friends, and it was mainly because I was in a space of growth and I knew where I wanted to take the business. And they were more so in a space of wanting to be more social and not really being the supportive friend that I needed to grow my business. So I lost lifelong friends, from moving into this space. But I'm thankful because I know that not everybody can move into the next season that I'm moving into. And so my true, solid core friends and family, the ones that are supposed to be there to enjoy, what's going on in my life and where I'm taking my business, they're going to be there. And so I really feel like being able to reposition myself and add this added income, it really has weeded out the ones who were really not there for me in the beginning. And I find myself just becoming more intentional about the people that I link up with. I'm not just, going to happy hour just to go to happy hour, to shoot the shit with somebody. It has to have purpose. It really has to have purpose in a sense of either we're talking about business or we're doing something that's going to make some kind of money, and then we can throw back some drinks. So for me, that's changed a lot. And it was just more so reevaluating and knowing that, I'm not trading, my time for money. I need to just level up in the sense of just making more money and being around, rubbing elbows with other people who are making the kind of money that I'm making or trying to make. So.
Toya, were you going to add something?
Well, yeah, and for me, it does make you truly start to value your time more. So you are more protective of your time. I've always had a small circle for the most part. And the hardest part for me even is when we're looking at the circle that was already small and it's your family and you're trying to say, come with me, come on. And there's some resistance. As much as you don't want to, because you're loyal to the soil, you do have to draw boundaries. And I'm not saying you're kicking them out of the circle, but you definitely draw boundaries. So I already had a small circle, but in valuing the time. And then there are just certain conversations we simply can't have. I can't go, oh my gosh, I just found this great investment property, and I can't share that per se with the people who had been closest to me because they don't get it. They'll tell me the cost, and I'm trying to show them the reward, the benefit on the back end. And it's like, why am I doing this on what to me was just something so exciting, and they didn't see that. So it changed the dynamics definitely of relationships, even in relationships where you couldn't necessarily just sever the tie. And it's no love lost, but at the end of the day, you really start to change conversations that you have, even with the people in your circle, if you can't cut them off. And as well, just like Teresa said, the people that you do spend those free moments with are people, like-minded people, because you don't have time to try to drag people and convince them to come to the promised land. You simply don't. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's about it. That about sums it up, guys, for those who are paying attention.
So yeah, I'm going to use that. I'm not about to drag anybody into the promised land.
No, because they don't see it. And, and sometimes it doesn't matter how you break it down, how you write it out, or any of those things. And so I love my family for everything of who they are. And so there are just times I'm like, okay, we're all going to go have fun. And when we all go have fun, I'm not talking about real estate or any of those kind of things, for that thing, because they're not interested. Like in my house, for example, we can't play Monopoly because we have one person on the team who does not like the competition of the fighting and the competitiveness. If you guys can figure that out, it's Cayenne. So Cayenne will not allow us to play Monopoly if she wants to be a part. So we don't play Monopoly if she's home. We play something else. And so you really have to look at, I use that jokingly, because you got to know your family and your dynamics and the people who are around you. So certain conversations I can't have with certain people, even within my circle. And one of the things I learned, guys, the hard way, and I know Toya was there during this time, was all the people in which you have to work with a lot of times to get through these processes. Some of those people who are closest to you can also be the ones who are put there to make you stumble. They are some of the people who are put there to steal from you. And I never forget, we had a person on our team, and as long as things were going okay, it was fine. Never thought I'd have to watch my back. And it wasn't until later, after we stopped working with him, and Toya was there, he came to one of my events and told the people there that he very much did. He went behind my back and tried to cut my throat. And during this time, he was making his million. Because again, I don't ever, and this is one thing, if you guys take one nugget away, don't count other people's pockets, okay? If that's one thing that you guys can take away, do not get caught up in counting anyone else's pockets. So if the three of us decide we're going to do a deal together, and we agree to this is what we're going to do, and Toya brings this skill set, Teresa brings this skill set, and I bring this skill set, and we say we're all going to make, let's say, or we just say we're going to do this. And if Toya makes $1 million from this, and Teresa makes 500,000, and I make 200,000, neither of the three of us should be upset or worried about who made the most money. And that, guys, is one of the hardest things, and one of the reasons I see so many people not able to climb within partnerships and working with other people. When you work sometimes in partnerships, you get there a lot faster. But if you go into any agreement and you are already worried about how much Teresa's going to make, without first figuring out how you're going to play your part in the team, we're going to have a problem. And so that kind of stuff happens when you bring other people around and you are building teams, let's say big rehab teams or whatever it is. if you don't have the right people in that circle, that can, cause you a lot of time lost within that process. And, I don't think I lost any time when I discovered the guy who was there doing it. It was more, I lost some peace. And when you lose peace of mind, it doesn't allow you to execute at your highest and at your best, because there's always people around or watching or whatever it is that's going on. So you have to be on your P's and Q's as well. It's like the more money, I would say new levels, new devils. The minute you go up, they just come out the woodwork. So you have to be careful of that, and your kids and all those other things that come along with that. I'm looking at one of the questions here. It says, do you all carry any debt? Debt in your business or debt on the properties you own?
I'm a risk taker. So yes, I do. I like to leverage other money versus being liquid poor or cash poor. So yes, my preference is to leverage other money. You want to be careful at the cost. You want to be very careful to calculate the cost of the money that you're using, though, to make sure that it's worth using it, that you're definitely leveraging the monies.
Right.
And to add on to that, debt doesn't have to be a bad thing, especially when you're making money off of it. So don't go into it thinking that, because you have, a debt associated with a property or something. As long as you're making money off of it, it doesn't have to be a bad thing. So.
Absolutely. And for me, yes, I carry debt on real estate. I don't have any debt on the business, and that's just right now. But I'm looking forward to having some debt on the business. Typically for me is when I have debt, I have chosen the debt that's going to increase my bottom line so much more. So the debt I'm looking forward to is getting some debt on some more real estate for the business. And yes, that won't all be paid off in cash or anything like that, because I need to leverage a lot of different things. And so, yes, so to the person who asked that question, seems like we all have debt on at least real estate and probably some on business. And the one thing, guys, is if you're operating a business, understand that a lot of times if you have to get equipment and things like that, you have to use a loan to, service a contract with a state or a government entity. If they want you to, and that's why a lot of people don't get a lot of those contracts, because they don't have capacity. So if they needed to hire you to, let's say, do all the lawns in the city, and how you gonna do it? If you personally are in charge of buying equipment and things like that, you're not going to be able to go buy 40, stand-in lawnmowers or things like that. So yeah, you have to get a loan from somewhere and make that make sense in that situation, which Toya does it differently. But that's time for another story of how she put her contract together for the city. Guys, go ahead and drop whatever questions or comments you might have in the Q&A section. And if there's anyone who wants to ask a question live and wants to be taken off of mute, let us know. The other question here says, Teresa, what is your niche?
Okay, so being that I'm a degreed environmental engineer, I left corporate America because I used to be an engineer for NASA. And so once I started making more money in real estate, I completely exited working as an engineer, but I still had that emptiness that I missed doing what I was doing as an environmental engineer. So I ended up creating not a contract, but a proposal to go after companies that I saw that they were acquiring or divesting their properties, and they had a huge environmental imprint. So I wanted to go in, make sure that they were environmentally compliant, so that they wouldn't have any, sanctions imposed on them, because those can go up to $25,000 a day. And so my value proposition to them was, hey, based on what I can see by the naked eye without even looking at your paperwork, your permits, or stepping foot on your property, I can tell that you are at risk to get, sanctioned. And so I took that piece of it and said, what I can do for you is I can do your environmental phase 1 and phase 2s whenever you're, getting ready to acquire or divest. But I can also come in, to select facilities and look at it and see what type of compliance is in place right there. And I also couple that with real estate by looking at their real estate portfolio for that particular property. So if one of my companies come to me and say, hey, we're thinking about acquiring this other company, I will do the environmental assessment to see where they're at there. But then I'll also look at it from a real estate standpoint to see if it makes sense number wise. And I will advise them as how it looks on paper, as well as how it's going to do for environmental. So in a nutshell, it's just making sure that they look good from an environmental standpoint and a real estate standpoint to position them to make more money and reduce their risk. So
make more money, reduce risk. Mm-hmm. Yeah, anybody will hire her for that, right? Corporations, make more money. She's gonna make me more money and reduce my risk. Yeah, she's hired because she's not just bringing the real estate side. Like some people just, I just do real estate, but I'm also bringing and marrying the other part, which I think was so key, guys, that when you guys are looking for your niches, don't go so far and that's something you got to create. Some of it is already sitting in you. Like, what did you do before? What are you already naturally good at? Like all of those kinds of things kind of play into identifying your niche, even on the investment side. Like I don't do certain kinds of investments because they don't connect with who I am. So that's why managing foreclosures was so good for me during that time, because it was fast nickels and the people who were my clients, they didn't care. They just wanted me to sell the properties. It wasn't any emotion in there. They get on the phone and they start cussing and I'd be cussing at them and they still send me 20 more properties the next day. I didn't even care. So that worked for me and, what I enjoyed doing at the time. There are a couple more questions. Someone said, will Toya be doing a class on how she set up her contract with the city? Her mic is not open. She said yes. Let me see.
Okay. Yes, I'm sorry.
So she said yes. We don't have it on the calendar or anything like that, guys, but she said yes, she'll do one. Some of you will see her on tour. When we hit the tour, we have that 4 and 5 city tour piece coming. You'll see her there. The next question says, how are you managing these multiple streams of income?
The question was for me?
Or it doesn't say, anybody.
I keep each company just separate. Just each company is its own entity. So as far as the real estate investment, even on the real estate investment side, I have a couple of different companies that I send different properties through depending on what the exit strategy is. And then of course the contracts for mowing is a totally separate company as well. So I keep the entities separate.
And that's the same for me. Being that I'm a broker, I don't want to, put liability onto the brokerage that is unnecessary. So especially with the engineering aspect of it, it's more so coming from 2 different companies providing the service. And the reason why I do that is because I don't want anything to come back on my real estate brokerage that should have been provided under the engineering services and vice versa. So it's just be organized and make sure that you have the various entities for your businesses and they have their own unique process and procedures that you follow. So that's the main way that I do.
And for me, I don't, I have everything separate, but it gets down to I don't like accounting and bookkeeping. So I have teams of people who that's what they do. So there is an accountant, there's a different bookkeeper, and then we also have an accountant for certain businesses. So because we have different businesses doing different things, we found that some accountants are better at doing this kind of business, like managing or keeping up with a property management, for example. That accountant is totally different than our main accountant who has to file our taxes and get everything together, because then you have to bring all of the pieces together. And if you have several people, think about if you have a couple of companies and you have owners on those other companies. If there was income or investments that were made, all of those people need different kinds of forms so that they can go file their taxes. That is not something Tamika Bryant sits down and does. It's where you have accounting people for, bookkeepers, and everything. For me, what helps me make that a little simpler for myself is that the accountants have access to the files. So they can go into the bank's files, pull down information, documents, things like that, to keep all that stuff organized. And they do that on a monthly basis. And then that way I can keep up with what's making money each month, what's not making money, what do we need to change. So you're not waiting until the end of the year to start pulling stuff together to do taxes. You can kind of see during the year, this is not making sense. This is not, things. So the only ones I do hold on to and I see what's going on is my worst client of them all is my husband, who does his fix and flips. So I manage and watch the money, because I'll tell him, are you getting out in 30 days? And is the budget, let's say $10,000. Jeff Bryan will be in a property for 60 days with $15,000 budget blown. So that's the one I keep my eye on, because that one is closest to me and he needs the help, ladies. You got to make sure you got to know who your team members are. And he's my worst investor. The rest of them, they can kind of get their stuff together, do their thing. But that one right there, I don't know. He just in his own world, whistling down the street. And that's what I know. Toy over there laughing because her husband does some stuff with Jeff and they be on their own little thing. I'm like, I'll let y'all do whatever. So it just depends, guys, on what it is. But it doesn't make sense for me to be downloading the credit card statements and then trying to upload those where they have to go when I can hire a bookkeeper and accountant to keep up with all of that. So as long as I have all of that's another thing I do is I keep all of the companies have their own different credit cards. So I don't like to mix anything up or mingle anything, because then at the end of the year, if I do it that way, then it's me who has to separate all that crap. And so to keep all of that easy, I have one card for this and this card for that. And even down to when the kids travel with us, we issue them their cards just for the travel time. And then we take them back, because I have one kid who will keep spending and buying stuff. You guys know which kid that is. And so we collect all the credit cards back from them. So that's one of the things we do to manage just all the spending and the perks, because with the spending, guys, also comes the perks. Those cards with the buildups of points and then what you can do with those later, but that's time for a whole nother topic. There's another question here. It says, as you approach your $1 million level, who are the key people you need on your team? Is your spouse or significant other engaged or supports your plan? What's the challenge if they're not involved? So I think that's for Teresa, because she is approaching her $1 million.
Okay, so the key people that I knew I needed on my team was my CPA and my attorney, because when you work with major corporations, they're going to have their, attorneys there. And as far as drawing up the paperwork and contracts. So I needed to make sure that my interest and my company was protected in doing so. And I also needed the CPA on, board, because I knew that I was going into uncharted territories that I had never been in, and it was unfamiliar. And I just wanted to make sure that I had a, visual of what all was going on with all of the different, streams of income coming in. So those were my two key people. And I would suggest that for anyone that's building out their, $1 million empire, whether you're only making 100,000, you still need to, forward think as if, I need to be running this as $1 million, organization. And then all the other key people that you would need in place, that would be, dependent upon, how you want to organize it and how you want to lay it out. As for a spouse or significant other being engaged in supporting the plan, I didn't care. Because I knew what I had in my mind, and I knew that it was something that would get the family where we needed to be financially. Because even though we may not look like $1 million, we do things, we take our kids on 2-week-long trips out of the country pre-COVID for them to, get exposure to things. So I didn't really care if I had the support or not, because I knew I believed in myself, strong enough to where I could be my own support system. But I did have support. So I won't discount that and say that I didn't. I did have support. Anytime I needed to jump on a plane to go see clients or whatever the case may be, that was Mr. Mom. So I won't say that I didn't have that, but the biggest challenge that a lot of people will find is that everybody won't buy into your vision. Everybody won't support your vision. And you have to go into it knowing that no matter if I can't convince them or bring them to the promised land, you still have to stay steadfast and not easily get discouraged, because depending on your personality type, it can be easily, discourage you. So it's just, you have to be strong in what you know that you can do and have the confidence to get you through, whether someone supports you or not.
For me, guys, I don't know if Toya wanted to answer, but my significant other has always been supportive, but that really came from when we first started dating. We knew with the age difference that I was going to, be in this world of business longer than he was. And then he also knew that my goals were to, be in real estate, do all these things. Like, he knew that from the beginning. And so as long as he knew that, it was like, okay, this is who I am, what I'm doing. It wasn't that I married him and said I was going to be a housewife and then all of a sudden said, no, I'm going to run $1 million companies. No, from the first day we met, I'm like, if it wasn't for you and wanting kids and all this other stuff, I'd be Oprah. So here's what we're doing, and this is how we're going. And then the part of it is, guys, the one thing we decided to do early on is he invests in the stuff that he wants to invest in, and then I invest in the stuff that I want to invest in, so that we're not bumping heads. Because we found out early on his investment strategy was totally different than mine. He came from a family that wanted to save money and leave it in the bank, and my family was the opposite. And so when you try to bring two people into the same business and they're doing certain things that way, it doesn't work. So he created his own companies. He's got 2, 3, or 4 companies over there. I have several companies of my own, and then we support each other's work and business and things like that together. And then our real estate portfolio is something different. Even though we own a lot of those properties, but there are also properties that I own outside of the house, meaning the company owns them. And there are also agreements and partnerships that I'm in that does not include my husband, a spouse, or whichever way you guys have it all set up. But that's business, and I think people have to sometimes understand that when you are in business and you are in charge of building the empire, everybody doesn't get a vote. Like my husband may be the head of my household, but he's not the head of my business. So those are two different things, and that's two different ways of how we operate.
Can you repeat that one more time for the that did not hear you? Because they may take my comment that I said earlier as being malicious, but it comes from a place of what you just said.
That's right. I'll say it again. My husband may be the head of the household, but he is not the head of my business. So he runs what's happening in the house, the kids, all whatever's going on. But when it's time for a decision to be made for a business, and that's what's my business or what's going on here, I make that decision. Just like he doesn't want me in his maintenance company telling folks over there what to do. No. So we have conversations on, hey, if I'm going to do something or whatever, what do you think about this? But it's never, you should do this or you should do that. And normally, ladies, if ladies are here who are watching, if I'm normally working in an environment and I'm working with someone and I see that, that's a red flag. That if you're at the table with your company and a spouse is telling you what you have to do, then that's a red flag for me. Because then we might as well just get that spouse at the table too and say, okay, what are we doing? And that's why you guys will always see me if we're doing any kind of boot camps or anything. And I say, bring your spouses in. If they're walking back and forth trying to hear what I'm saying or whatever, have them sit right next to you. Like if they're a part of the business, bring them in. If they're not, then you have to have that conversation on support. Because here's where we are with the person who asked that question. When you sit down with your spouse and you ask them, how much money do we need to retire? You're normally saying we. If they don't have the number of what they need to do to retire and they don't have a plan, guess what? Y'all both are going to be broke. Did you hear me? That means you both will retire with no money. So if the spouse isn't supportive in the way that is helping you get to where you have to go financially, then we have to have those conversations. They either have to be supportive in getting out your way so that you can do what you have to do, or they have to be supportive in helping you grow the business or whatever, your real estate or whatever, so that you guys can both retire happily and financially fit. It makes no sense to not support you and when you're trying to build wealth for the family, because then y'all both gonna be broke. I know y'all seen them people who are homeless, the husband, it'd be a man and a woman. I just be driving, I'm like, how did he convince her to be out here? Or how did she convince him? Like two people out? No, we're not doing that. So I'm with you, Teresa. It doesn't even come up in the conversation because we've had it before. I got to get to $4 million. How I need your support is make sure the kids are okay. This is this, and I'm gonna go ahead and go for it.
And trust me, they're going to support once they realize it's for the benefit of the family. It takes a burden off of them, with you bringing this to the table. So support will be there. And if not, then you just have to deal with it accordingly once it comes.
Yeah, because I'm just in agreement. If the spouse sees that, hey, we're not there where we want to be, how are we going to make this change? Because nursing homes, we both can't be in a nursing home. It's not going to work. We're no cat food diets over here. Like we're not adding cat food to the menu. So get on board or move on out the way and be supportive in another way. Don't block my blessings and yours too at the same time. So we're going to take this last question over here. I don't see any more because I don't want to use all the ladies' time this Sunday. It says, I have a construction business, mainly government contracts, that's doing over $2 million in revenue. It's a family business with a lead project manager close to retirement. What's the best way to spin off this business into real estate? Ladies, do you have any suggestions here?
Well, Tamika, I would say I'm not suited to answer that question, but what I would say more either of one of you two, I would say that.
For me, I would need a little bit more detail in order to say how you can spin it off into the real estate business, because construction is so broad that we would need to hone in on what exactly are you doing in that construction realm, and then figure out a plan on how to merge it or marry it into real estate to increase your earning potential. I would love to answer that question right now, but I would honestly need a little bit more detail to actually do so.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing, Teresa, in the fact that a construction business, constructing what?
Right.
Residential, commercial. There are a few things that are missing there for me. The project manager, if they're leaving, does that mean there's nobody in the space that can manage those projects, or are we doing a different project? So one of the things, for example, guys, that we do on our side is that we may be doing fix and flips and buy and holds, but we're always working on development projects. And so what I'm looking at is if this person has a construction business and they are doing a lot of government contract stuff, what about switching it to do more contracts and do more stuff for your own development, so that you could still do your government pieces over here. But again, I don't know if you won't have a project manager if there's nobody else who can get into that space, because I'm always hiring a GC to represent us in different markets, because development contracts, for example, we need more inventory. On the residential side, we need more inventory for workforce housing. So those are the types of contracts that we're acquiring more of, but we're not doing those for city contracts. We use the city and government money because when nobody else has money, the city and governments always have money. They can always find some money from somewhere. But we've just added to make sure our personal stuff was also being developed. So very similar to that I would teach when you guys hear me say, if you're working with an investor and you're buying them 2 properties to flip, you ought to be making sure you get 1 in there too. So as long as you have contracts with somebody else that you're doing similar work to, just make sure you're doing it for the personal family side of the things as well. If I put up 10 hotels for this company, I'm going to put up 1 for me, in that process to make sure that's in there. So again, a lot of information not here. That's, just the nature of our time here. So let's see. Do we have anything else that's here? Ladies, how would you like folks to contact you if they want to contact you? I think everybody here is in WIN or NB Niche, so that means you can contact the ladies because they're both in that group if you want them to contact you that way. And if you have any last words for any of the folks who are here, whether they just made their first 1,000 to they just made their first million, or they're on to 10 million, or whatever kind of advice you guys want to give to the folks who are here with us.
I'll close it out on my end by just simply saying, be open to new opportunities, because you never know where your niche will take you. But first, you have to know what your niche is. You have to work it. You have to be dedicated to knowing your stuff before somebody else will, hire you to do whatever they need you to do. But there's so much money to be made out there if you just take the time to sit down and not let the, everyday, hustle and bustle of life, work, and everything else that comes in between to get you distracted, because that's all everything is a distraction from you getting to that final number of becoming a millionaire. So wherever you are, it can be done. If it's your first 1,000, 10,000, whatever, you can make it happen. And there's several ways to get you there.
Absolutely. Thank you, Teresa.
And I would just like to add, basically, just in identifying your niche, whatever you're good at, what you like doing, master it, learn it, and you'll know because you'll have a passion for it. It won't even feel like work, and everything else will fall into place. Keep the 2 people on your team, like Teresa said, the CPA and the attorney, and you're sure to be successful.
Thank you, Toya. And I guess my last word of advice, guys, is move the fear out of, whatever it is, out of your vocabulary. The other thing I believe also to be true is you have to focus. Everything we do right now is nothing but a distraction. Everything I see, like this whole week, I have not even turned on the TV, let alone know what's going on or anything. I got to go to Facebook to see what's happening. And that's only because people were inboxing me there. But when I'm focused, and this week, the reason I didn't see any TV is because I have 2 sets of developers within an hour's time. And that's the only people I was focused on. So when they're talking about they want, and what happened is in one of these, and here's just a quick reason why you have to be focused. One developer told another sub-developer that he did not want his money, which was 200 million. Did you guys hear me? One developer told a sub-developer in South Florida that his 200 million wasn't enough for him to come up and play, that he needed 500 million to come up and play. So if I'm sitting at the table with these guys who are telling someone else that they can't come play with us because they don't have 200 million, because all they have is 200 million. It's nothing on TV I want to see, or I can't even know what's going on. It's nothing on there, no Maury, no, nothing on Netflix, nothing. I am ears and eyes wide open of how is it that they can tell someone that their 200 million can't play over here. So that focus of, laser focus and mastering your craft gets you at that table, get you at the table where other people are having those conversations that levels you up. So I can't play with a bunch of people who are crying about their martini didn't come out the right way on girls' night out. I can't do it. I'm gonna be over here having a scotch with the $500 million guys. That's what I'm gonna be doing. Because that's where my focus needs to be if I'm leveling up and truly leveling up to the next layer of what I know I'm capable of doing. And I would tell all you guys who are listening here, you all have what it takes, providing you can stay focused. If you can stay focused and get the people out of your way, you have what it takes to do it. You just have to study and you have to master stuff. People don't want to study anymore. So I have to say, in both of the lady situations where they said study and master your craft, take those 2 things back, guys, and figure those pieces out. When do you have time to do that? Okay. So guys, thank you so much for being here with us. We are at 3 o'clock and I normally try not to keep you guys past 45 minutes. So we appreciate you guys. You can connect with these ladies in Facebook groups. And if you reach out to them, they can give you their contact information. We're going to try to make sure that this video is on our YouTube channel. And if we can post it in the group, we'll do that too for the folks who missed it and they wanted the replay. Okay, guys, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll see some more of you millionaires at the table.
Thank you, Tamika.
All right, thanks, ladies.